I am Joanna with Blissful Baby Sleep Coaching, and I have another success story to share with you. Today, we are talking to Ty, who has two children. We did a sleep training on the 3-year-old and the 6-month-old. As you can see, we have baby, I'm not going to say her name, I'm just going to say baby 6-month-old, who is just woke up from the most gorgeous hour-and-a-half nap. So she's getting her bottle and she's in a really great mood. So Mom, thank you so much for sharing your story. So why don't you tell me what life looked like with the two kids prior to calling me?
Yeah, so our 3-year-old was always what we thought was a terrible sleeper. She didn't sleep well when she was a baby. We tried sleep training on our own a million times. It never really stuck. But when baby number 2 came around, things got really hard with her. She started protesting bedtime, waking up overnight, tantruming a bunch. Just sleep was really, really hard, waking up super early, always needing me. And then with baby, she was nursing all night on demand whenever she wanted. We didn't really have a schedule. She was going to bed super late when we called Joanna. And it was just making things really hard. My husband and I were sleeping in separate bedrooms. We were like ships passing in the night at the time.
Yes, definitely. And I would say that for those of you that are listening to this, that are thinking, I have a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old, I hear you. I would say this is why I wanted Ty to share her story, is like, as hard as her life was, it's a universal problem that I see every single week. When you have the 3-year-old that wasn't a great sleeper, you kind of make these assumptions like, oh, they're not a great sleeper, and you cope with it, right? Because you only have one child but then the second baby comes, and all of a sudden that baby has different demands, and all of a sudden the combination becomes untenable. Like, you're just like, I literally cannot maintain the demands that each child needs, which is, so yeah. So tell me, what made you then, okay, so obviously the demands were like increasing, but what made you decide to finally ask for support? Like, where were you? What was going on? What conversations were you having with your husband?
Yeah, so with our first, with the 3-year-old, we had tried several different like DIY methods, and sometimes they stuck a little bit. But once we had the second baby, we just didn't have the bandwidth to even, like, the mental bandwidth to tackle that. And I was so drained from like nursing and being up with the baby all the time that I couldn't even fathom like how we were going to conquer this 3-year-old. Like, we were joking that having a second baby, the baby wasn't hard. It was the toddler that was the hard part. And my husband and I were fighting a lot just because we weren't getting sleep and no one was sticking to a schedule. And so actually my husband was talking to a work colleague who had used you, Joanna, and just was like, hey, we have someone that just helped us. They also had 2 kids, and we hadn't really talked to anyone that had done 2 kids with the same person before. We actually didn't know anyone that had done like tackled the toddler sleep. So
Right.
we were really excited to get introduced to you because of that.
Yes. Okay. So I want to say, especially since Father's Day is coming up, one of the greatest gifts you can give a dad is, hey, let's make it a priority to get these kids sleeping, and let's ask for support. I love the fact that the two dads were talking about their family life, and they both had to, in a very vulnerable way, because I imagine that 2 men talking, saying, sleep is really hard. And the dad's like, I gotcha. I got a coach for you. I mean, that is the cutest, like, visual image I could ever imagine. Two very involved dads, because I should say that Ty's husband did the coaching for baby number 1 and baby number 2. Like, he did the coaching from top to bottom. He's like awesome coach. And I want to let you know that most of the time I have the dads be very involved in the process, because it is easier on the children, believe it or not. And it's easier on the mom, especially if you're a nursing mom. So I love that the 2 dads were chatting and encouraging each other to get help. And then he came home to you and you're like, yes, let's get some support. And also with the toddler, that it's never too late to help learn sleep skills. I want everybody that's listening to this to know it's never too late. I work with children all the way up to 10 years of age. but I want you to know that sleep is something that can be learned, and it's never too late to create the right circumstances and environment to learn it. So yeah, so that we get started. We decided to start with the baby first because we really needed moms to have more hands-free time because she was nursing on demand. And that worked out fairly. We made a lot of progress really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And very, like, you were worried about the tears. She was your, nursing baby. Like, you loved the cuddles and the co-sleeping. So how was that for you? Like, were you like pleasantly surprised, like very, very little protest, very little tears?
Yeah, I think just honestly what helped me was learning a little bit of like the science behind it, like knowing even when you went through like the sleep science behind cycling and that there's a purpose to the tears and there's different levels to the crying. Like that was something I wasn't aware of with our first kid. And so that helped me not only just like rationalize what was happening, but also like take a step back and say, okay, if I can help coach her through this, or my husband can help coach her through this, we're actually going to get like a happier a happier baby overall. And I think that is what helped me. I mean, the tears are hard, but honestly, at this point, I would take that tenfold. I mean, just because things are so much better.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And I would say that, yeah, that's something that I always try to emphasize is if there is any protest, we're always able to kind of like decode it, right? We're always trying to understand what they're communicating, and then we are attending to their needs based on the communication. So remember, I'm a gentle sleep coach, so I do everything we can to minimize tears and protest. And then if they are happening, we are able to attend to them. Okay, so what does life look like now?
It's really good. Yeah, the baby is sleeping from like 5:30 or 6 until 6 in the morning, so all night sleep, which is amazing. That's something that my first baby didn't do until she was 2 or 2.5. So getting a solid night's sleep is amazing. And then we started nap training as well. She's now napping in her crib for her first 2 naps of the day. She just took 2 hour-and-a-half naps in the crib. So I have a little bit of time to myself during the day again. And things are going really well with our toddler as well. So that was something that we were super nervous about, especially just like tackling sleep training with a toddler full of protest and lots of energy. And she's doing great as well. I think the schedule and the framework that you provided really helped her. And she's now sleeping from like 6:30 at night until 12 hours all night. So,
Sleeping 12 hours in her own bed, in her
yeah.
own room, and same with baby. Baby girl, sweet baby girl, was, in the room or co-sleeping with mom, and now in her own room. And we did a gentle wean. So we moved at the right pace for the weaning. So mom still has a breastfeeding relationship, but it's just that she's not feeding in the middle of the night anymore. So the baby gets 12 hours uninterrupted, which is fantastic. And then the 3-year-old is happy in her room, feels safe in her room, stays in her bed at bedtime, stays in her bed in the middle of the night, doesn't go wandering, doesn't kind of try to climb into the bed. I think you guys have your own master bedroom back, right? Like, so husband and wife are now in the same room, which is like, yay. That's always part of the wish list is, can one of us please can we both enjoy our gorgeous bed and our gorgeous sheets? Like we spent all the money on this and no one's enjoying it. Yeah. Amazing. And so what has become possible now since the babies and the children are sleeping that was not possible before?
Yeah. Well, when both girls started sleeping through the night, my husband and I went out on the front porch and had a glass of wine together. And we realized that we had not done that since the second baby was born. We hadn't ever had a glass of wine on our porch or hung out together in the evening after bedtime. So that's given us back time to just like order dinner or hang out together and talk, get to know each other again, talk
Yes.
about our day. And then also stuff during the day got easier, especially with my toddler when she started sleeping all night. Like her behavioral issues during the day really subsided. And I think she was just, we were operating in that like overtired zone, and didn't realize that like we were parenting when it was the hardest.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I hear that often that parents are like, oh, she's just really a hard kid. Not only is she not a great sleeper, she's just in general, just like a hard kid. And I say, well, let's not make judgments on whether or not they're hard or easy to raise. Let's get them sleeping and let's see if their true personality evolves. And what we have now is a much more fun child. I mean, still super wicked smart. She's crazy, crazy smart. But we now know so much more about her that we can parent her in an easier and in different ways so that we stay ahead of her instead of her staying ahead of us.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So if you met a really tired mom and she was just like you, she had the 3 or 4-year-old and the new baby, and she was really struggling, what would you want her to know?
I think just that it's possible to get easier. I think one of my hangups was just like, this is too hard. Like, no one can help us. We're just in it. Everybody does this. I just have to stick it out. And that's
Mm,
not the case. Like, I felt like once we started talking to you, like, just a lot of weight was lifted off of our shoulders. And both my husband and I both said, like, we would pay this amount of money anytime. Like, I would hand it over in a heartbeat if someone could show me how I feel now. Like, we should have done it sooner.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so great. So yeah, so what I hear you saying is like part of you was like, okay, this is so miserable. I honestly don't think there's even anybody that could help me. And then if I did find somebody, would just the process be so damn hard that would hardly be worth it. And what I hear and what you're saying is, oh, I was pleasantly surprised that first of all, it was not as hard as I thought. It didn't require more of me than I thought.
Yeah.
That actually required less of you and you got the results you were looking for without it beating you up further, right? Because it's true, when you're in a state of depletion, any effort seems like, oh. And that's what I always tell families is like, honestly, this is an easier process than you could ever imagine if you trust the process. And you guys did trust the process, and you then saw the other side like, oh, wow, we didn't get beat up by this. We didn't go into further depletion because we sleep trained. You actually saw a steady hope, rise of hope, and a steady rise of ease. Yes. Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for trusting me. Thank you for trusting the process. I know, sweet girl. Thank you for sharing your story. I know so many moms will be comforted to know that there is hope and help available, and it's not going to further deplete them if they go and get the expert support.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Yes. Bye, Steffi.